Namaste Vindraji. We're all very happy to have you here. Hope we'll have a very good discussion. Yeah, as planned, what we will do is we will take up the topics as posted in the group. The first and foremost point which I would like to bring is, see, now the whole world is a village. We call it as a global village. The Advaita Vedanta, as we all know, it is Yathartha Jnana. And for the Yathartha, we have a Pramanas. Obviously, when we say Pramana, it is Shruti alone. Too much reliance on the Shruti and Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. It will confine the thought to somewhat a Hindutva, Hinduism, or Sanatana. It will not be able to go beyond the borders, spread like Buddhism, because whatever the epistemological limitations, are they an impediment in spreading Advaita Vedanta? I would like to start from that point, Binduji.
Very well. There is a lot of misconception that Advaita is depending only on Shruti as a Pramana. That is first wrong concept which we have to take out. Shruti is taken as a Pramana at the last, because Advaitam Paramartha. It is just like the sun is a reality, the space is a reality, the experiences are a reality. Advaita talks about a reality which is all inclusive. Now, the three pillars which Advaita wants all of us to accept and do is, one is, what is your experience? Individual experience. Advaita is not going to talk about anything. Are you having experience? Have you analyzed that experience? In that experience, you have a subject, object, and the relationship. Now, what is changing in that is the object based on which the relationship is changing. But the subject is never changing. So Advaita wants us to look at the non-changing or ever-present part of the experiences, all experiences, whether we call it as bodham or anubhava or experience, whatever may be the term we are using it. That aspect of experiencer is not changing because the experiences are changing. So to know that, and that aspect for each one of us, from the childhood till date, as an experiencer of childhood toys to an adolescent to now, I have not gone through a change. My body has gone through change, my mind has gone through change, my physicality has gone through change, my location, time, everything has gone through change. They are all objects. But the subject is something which has remained unchanging all the time and which is not an object in the sense an external object.
Changing object.
Changing object. It is ever present, permanent, the knower of the experience. That knower has not undergone any change. That is number one pillar of Advaita. Number two is that logic. This logic which is being used by Advaita is to not affirm the experiencer, because that is personal. I mean, swanubhava or my own experience. For that I don't need a logic outside. The logic is used for my wrong association with the mind and the body and the complexity of that as me, which is what I know myself as today. As a man, age, location, size, all the qualifications of the body, I say that I am that. But that is not the case. To remove this misunderstanding or wrong concept, we need to use logic. That is where we use Drik Drishya Viveka. When we use Drik Drishya Viveka, what is the Drik? The knower of the reality is always separate from the Drishya. So Drishya is going through change, or whatever is experience is going through change. The one who is so logic and our own personal experience. Now we are using Shruti as a pramana to support these two, but Shruti alone is not a support. Because if Shruti says that Shruti is a Shruti pramana, because if Shruti says that tomorrow it is midnight during noon, we cannot accept it is because Shruti. No. Shruti is telling something which is in tune with these two, therefore Shruti becomes a pramana. Now the question is that if we take Gita, Brahma Sutra, Upanishad as a pramana for us, we are excluding others who are not familiar with this, but whereas the experiencer is universal. Is not, there is no religion, there is no location, no place, everybody is an experiencer. So if we depend upon only on the Shruti, then we are excluding majority of the people who are not familiar with the Shruti or the textbooks which are there in the avatar. Second thing is that the word Hinduism has come much later in this history. But our ancestors who never had any religion to classify or categorize, they depended upon their own experiences. So the Upanishad, Gita and Brahma Sutra, all those things are output by those people who wrote down their experiences, which is verifiable by you and me today. It is not that it cannot be verified by you and me. So therefore, using this as a pramana or a means of knowledge, I am not excluding anybody. If I say Prajnanam Brahma, for example, one of the Mahavakya, that awareness or consciousness is what we call as Brahma. The word Brahma may not be universal for everyone, but the moment I say Prajnana, consciousness of awareness, it is universal. Whether it's in America or in Europe or Japan or China, everybody has the same thing, Prajnana. We may use the Sanskrit word, they use the English word or Chinese word or Japanese word. But that doesn't change the nature of Brahman.
Even if we translate the word Brahma as the biggest, even that is easily understood for all the people, right?
Yes, easily understood. But we are talking about the consciousness from the experiencer point of view. That all Brahma Bharta is that when we are going to make all inclusive, when we say that Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. That past I am not commenting. So this doesn't make that we are an exclusive religious Advaita point of view is only for Hinduism. It is not for Hinduism. It is universal in nature. Now, second part of the Buddhist thing which Jadavji mentioned is that Buddhism has no such aspect of it. They are more into Dharmam Chara, Satyam Vada, that aspect. They have got a missionary zeal. They are not addressing the individual nirvana as their main goal. When they go to that, it is some of them will take, like our sannyasis who are taking a Vairagya route and going to that. Some of them may be looking for the nirvana, but majority of the Buddhists, why it became universal and spread is because of the service, the missionary zeal and service with which they spread the Buddhism as a routine. Jainism also, for that matter, could not succeed as much as Buddhism because they did not take up on the service aspect. Why Advaita did not go to that route? Because Advaita is also not interested in the service aspect. But people like Vivekananda, Chinmayananda or others who are in that field, they have mixed both Advaita and service together so that Advaita can reach everywhere. So that is the nutshell of the answer to your question.
Yeah, thank you, Binduji. Yeah,
Bindu
that's
ji,
fine.
It might have like this part of people of this part might have followed.
Come in Jatra, just sit.
When we talk
Ask
about
that question,
the
right? Anybody
Sanatan
can ask who am
aspect
I.
of the Advaita,
When?
Sanatan aspect of the Advaita, you are talking about inclusivity.
Yes.
I mean, everything is included,
Right.
and there is no religious aspect for this.
Yes.
So, how we have to explain this modern Hinduism, which a particular word created in modern world itself, how we have to explain Hinduism on the basis of Sanatan Advaita? How we can now
See.
explain it?
Yeah, you have to be very clear about it. Advaita is not talking to you for your daily routines,
Yes.
rituals,
Yes,
or
agreed.
belief,
Yes,
or
agreed.
God, or anything about that.
Yes.
Advaita is talking about Anubhava.
Anubhava Pramana.
Anubhava Pramana.
Okay.
And that is not religion specific.
Yes.
So when you talk Sanatan and Hinduism, you are addressing only the other aspect of Hindu religion, not about Advaita.
Okay.
So when you bring Advaita as Hinduism or Hindu aspect, you are actually diminishing the status of Advaita to a secular activity. I mean, to a, what you call a limited this thing. But keep Advaita separate.
Okay.
The reason is that it is Anubhava Pramana and it is universal. A Buddhist can do it, a Jainism can do it, or a Christian can do it, or a Muslim person can do it. Anybody can do it. What we are asking is, who is the experiencer in you?
That's the right. But in modern times, Advaita has taken many folds. Now, who speaks about Advaita, preach about Advaita, most of them already in some of the institutions. You can call it as Mata, something else, any of the such cult. So, how these people at of ways they are doing all this exclusivity. Again, they speak about the inclusive. This is totally confusing. So,
Yes.
how
You're
a
right.
seeker, which path he has to go, which path he has to find himself that he is going through the right path or not? How he will know? It is very confusing time.
It is confusing in the sense that, as you rightly said, those organizations which are now trying to use Advaita's universal acceptability to draw people into Hinduism.
Okay.
It is not the other way around what you think. Advaita has got a universal acceptance. Whether it is Christianity or Islam or Western world or even scientific world, the Advaita is accepted. But when it comes to these institutions want to bring people into the Hinduism fold. So they sandwich Advaita between rituals and donations and things like that, and then they are packaging it. But those who have really understood, among the Hindus and also those who have really understood Advaita, they are not bound by religious dogmas or this thing. Culturally, yes, it is a Vedic culture where we find the Shruti as a Pramana. So as a culture, there is an allegiance. But the culture is not limited because it is part of the Vedas, because real Advaita is not talking about,
Yatra Veda, Veda.
yes, the whole thing is about experience. Where have you analyzed your experience? As a human being, it is not talking about your body. When your body is not there, what religion can you talk about? We are not talking about the physical, mental body at all. So therefore, you cannot limit it to any religious dogma. Because Shruti is part of Vedas, they think Vedas are only for Hindus. No, Vedas are universal. The real Vedas are universal in nature. where Anovanda Pratavo into Vishwatana, when the whole world should be contributing to the knowledge, it is not the Hindu knowledge, it is to the knowledge of the humanity, what we are talking about.
Total humankind they
Yes.
have given this knowledge. And we are talking about this inclusivity and Anubhava Pramana. I just think that how a seeker can what you call examine himself that he is on right path of Anubhava Pramana or not. Because the self experiences, sometimes this is depending on external forces. Sometimes it is because of the real thirst to knowledge. So how one can differentiate it in his own experiences, and which will be the guiding light to them.
Okay. Your own question had to answer it.
Yes, I know, I wanted to explain.
Yeah. You said that there is an influencing factor
Yes.
for that.
Hmm.
Is the influencing factor the experiencer or the world outside?
That is the confusion, no? For a seeker
We
in the
are
beginning.
talking about Anubhava.
Aha.
Anubhava is in the experiencer or in the world outside?
It is in the experience.
It is in the experience.
Yes.
So the world changing
Hmm.
is not changing the nature of the experiencer. It is the nature of experiencing, the objects will change.
Okay.
So the object and the experiencing are the ones which are changing. The experiencer is the one who is aware of the changes, including the experiencing nature of the changes. So how can that affect the nature of the experiencer?
It will not.
It will not.
It will not.
So your
Definitely.
question had the answer in it.
Yes, yes. Now you answered very thoroughly. Thank you for that. Now I will give this a chance to Vinodji. He has some questions about the change. He asked it, so let him continue this because we came
I
to
started
the point
the
where we
nature
talked
of
about the
pramana.
changes.
Okay.
So let him ask.
So we know that
We know
normally
this.
there are three types of pramanas, Shabda
Six
pramana.
Brahmana.
Okay, if we take three for now.
Right.
And then second is Anumana, and third is Pratyaksha.
Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana.
That will take later, only three I am taking for now.
Right.
The reason is like, see, the Shabda pramana, like Vedas and scriptures and this one, they're all by default not pramanas. What I perceive them as, that they are kind of, because when one has to sit and think about how the reality can be, it is too vast, right? There are too many paths, too many these things and all. Science takes you in different ways, etc., etc. So it becomes extremely important to know, okay, what I should consider to even check it out, right?
Right.
But checking it out is my responsibility. Just because somebody tells it is not a truth. So Shabda Praman is a pointer which one should consider, depending on which source you are going to consider from, as a pointer to consider what is it that you are going to explore. So it itself is not Pramana. It is only a probable Pramana. Probable.
Okay, why do Advaita accept Shabda as a Pramana?
Huh.
Is because in the Pratyaksha, which is the most valid Pramana, everybody, every philosopher, everything accept Pratyaksha as one Pramana, whether it is Charvaka, modern science, or
Yeah.
the other schools of philosophy. What is told in the Pratyaksha becomes a Shabda Pramana or a Shastra Pramana when we consider that comes from a Apta. Apta means one who we address or take as a person who will never tell a lie or will tell us a guidance. Only such statements are considered as valid because the reason being Atma or Brahman is not in the Pratyaksha. So we don't have a Pratyaksha Pramana for us to accept. But at the same time, the Apta or the one Rishi or those who wrote the Upanishad have written about Atma and Brahman as Pratyaksha. They call it as Aparoksha because it is beyond sense organs, therefore they call it as Aparoksha or Sakshat. These are the two words they use it. So, it is as good as a direct perception or the Pratyaksha, but since there is no sensory methods to accept it, the dependency on the scripture which is telling about it, but it doesn't become a valid pramana until you verify it.
Understand.
That is why they say that even though Shastra scripture is a pramana, that is considered only for validation, not as a means of knowledge directly. Because it is Pratyaksha what has to ultimately this thing.
Correct.
Even for inference,
Right.
you need a support of a Pratyaksha pramana to arrive at a conclusion. So everything is depending upon Pratyaksha. In the Pratyaksha, when you have this beyond sensory limit, when something is possible, that is what is called Sakshat or Aparoksha. And me knowing myself of my own is not through sense organs. Here, the Shastra is going to tell us what is the nature of that me, which I till now never knew about myself, by giving the way in which they have found out that Iti Shushuma Purvesham is the word they are using in the Upanishad. This is how our Purvas teachers have taught us, is the way in which we are going to teach, because there is no other method. What is that? Pratneya. That is what is very clear. So there is no other means with which we can know it, our own validation. Therefore, our own validation validates the Shruti, which we are verifying.
Correct.
Not Shruti is going to
Correct.
tell us something
That's the
and
main
we are not
point,
believing.
yeah.
Okay? That is how we are taking.
So it's totally in sync with what my understanding
Okay,
is.
yeah.
So it is not by itself a pramana,
Right.
but it's a pointer
Yes.
because it's coming from a person Apta, as you said.
Yes.
Yeah, and Anumana anyway is like
That
not
also
in.
depends on, the Anumana is also depending upon Pratyaksha.
So that is where another question.
Mhm.
Okay, what is exactly the role of Anumana in recognizing the non-sense related nature of oneself?
See, the Anumana in the non-sensory knowledge is to segregate what you call the misconceptions which we can have.
Mhm.
That is being negated in the inference process. It is not a direct means.
So it
which
is to
we can-
remove the.
Yeah, we have a lot of misconceptions saying that we
Right,
are the
right, yeah.
physical body, the mind, the intellect, etc., etc. So the inference, what is the that yad drishyam tad nashyam or drik drishya viveka, when it comes, that inference which we say, drishyatvad gadavat, when that is an inference. If it is like a pot, that is bound to be destroyed. If are we seeing our body, physical body, as a object for us? Because what body I had as a child is not the body which I am having. So I am seeing my body changing. So that is the reason why the inference of that body is also like the pot. It is bound to be destroyed, but I am not going to be changed because I didn't go through a change when my body went through a change. So that inference is beyond the sensory organs. At the same time, the inference is used since you have noticed the change. You are the changeless, and the changing one is your body, and you are not the body. That is how it is.
So it is very interesting that we are like having inference to remove the inference in a way.
To remove the wrong notions.
No, wrong notions are wrong inferences, right?
Yeah, wrong inferences which we had built.
Yeah. Now the question is that is there any inference which is standing alone and can be seen as valid? Because in my understanding, the moment you do any inference, it's always bound to be limited.
Yes.
See, because when you are pointing to oneself, when you are pointing to self, it is not really inference.
No.
It's a recognition of some sort.
Absolutely right.
It's a direct perception,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
It is not inference.
No.
And therefore, any inference as you make, which you make, is bound to be having limitations at some point of time.
Yes. That is why the two words, ek sakshat aparoksha brahma or aparoksha anubhuti, when we talk about it, it is not talking about inference. But if you use anything in inference to lead up to you, is to remove the doubts which can come. But what is that aparoksha anubhuti we are talking about?
So what exactly happens when we remove the doubt? Meaning, since when we are in the inference process, we are refining in a way. But that refinement is essentially changing our perception of the reality in a way, in this way to that way. So something is happening still, which is useful.
Nothing is happening. Please understand that. What is happening is that the inference, when it is being removed, that is the time, aha, I am that. That is there all the time.
Let's say it's the final step. Aha is the final step.
Yes.
When you recognize yourself is the final step. But in between steps,
In between step is all the wrong conceptions.
no, but let's say that, we say that, okay, this is temporary. You said that the body is temporary.
Yeah.
I recognize that the body is temporary.
Right.
Now that changes something in us, right? Because our dependency on what has seemed to be solid is removed now. And because that dependency is removed, something is supposed to happen. Meaning, the mind is supposed to
Mind will
get transformed in a certain way.
Mind will go through the problem of what you call the ego. Actually, not the mind. The ego per se will go through the problem of de-recognizing its importance.
Okay.
So, what happens is that it's a suicidal approach of the ego which it will resist tooth and nail. It will not allow you.
So this phenomena
bring
we want
you-
to understand thoroughly because it plays in so many different ways.
Yes.
Because when people are very strong in asking questions, particularly Advaita, okay. So my point is, when I say you are in the mind, what I normally typically mean is like that one is mechanically asking questions because he knows the answers and he has to drive you there.
Right.
And therefore it has nothing to do with the self-recognition or anything like that. So it becomes a kind of like, if you can say that machine processing information towards some objective.
Right.
And that objective is not really to recognize oneself, but the objective is to either win or like,
Yeah.
you are kind of like this thing. So even in this process of inference, there can be a lot of pitfalls ultimately.
Yes.
That's why we get stuck so much in the discussion rather than the self-recognition.
That is why when we are in the process of self-inquiry, every Purva Paksha or every opposition which is coming can derail us and the ego will be happy to go with it. The ego will be, because it is getting a recognition which otherwise we are denying.
Right.
So the chance of that derailing us will be accepted by the ego, and that is why a lot of people will find it, to let go their individuality, to take that final plunge where they recognize the aha moment. It is not a moment actually speaking, it is there all through. This very moment, you and me are that. Right? We are not getting that aha moment because we are still in the dialogue section.
Right.
Right? When we are in dialogue, we are associating with the body and then they do the dialoguing. But when you are internalizing and doing it yourself, you are not even communicating or conversing with yourself. You are letting go everything. And when you let go everything, that is the time when you are, as I used to say, naked to yourself. There is nothing more to drop. What will you drop? You can't drop yourself.
So here, a very interesting thing that I have observed is that particularly in our circles in clubhouse and all, we have not really given importance to the nature of how subtle the ego can be defending itself.
I agree with you. Very much.
So I just want to give an example of what might be happening, kind of. Like one simple example is that when the water is free flowing, it will always tend to collect at one place.
Right.
And because where this thing is,
Yes.
there is a freedom in flowing, but then that flowing is hindered by the nature of the ground or whatever. Then the water gets collected. So unless it has a higher energy, it cannot then go out of that area. Meaning it gets collected. So it seems that the nature is designed to always make you an ego. Meaning it will make you become a center, ego center. It's a design by nature. So you try to go out and it will again put you a boundary, meaning it will make you centered again.
That is where the same water, after coming to that spot, but the flow is continuing, it will find its own new route.
Right. So the energy has to be continued.
Yes, because that is part of the nature of the water.
Right.
Same way, the same nature of our inquiry, even if we are getting diverted in temporarily, will know that it is stuck in one place, then we will look for exit. That exit has to be continued, otherwise you will remain in that loop.
So this aspect somehow, in my opinion, we don't have some kind of clarity what exactly could be happening.
What exactly happening is very simple. The ego is comfortable, you have no drive to go beyond that. So whether you are stuck to a yoga path or any other path which you are meditation or tantra, mantra, yantra, whatever may be the ego is getting that required recognition.
No, but if ego is jada, how can it help?
You see, ego is not jada. Ego is the same novel consciousness which has taken the human aspect. But having got that consciousness to function as an individuality, it is now able to bifurcate between aham and idam, this myself and the world. And that is the comfort where the consciousness is comfortable with. Now, when you talk about this, that is where the knowledge become all encompassing. Yat jnatva sarvamidam vijnatam bhavati. What happens is that you will know that even the ego and the world are all play of the same consciousness. The play of same consciousness can be enjoyed only if you know what is consciousness and where you are. Otherwise, it is just like a father carrying a child. The child is enjoying the scene, everything, but he doesn't know the distance travel or the weight father is carrying, right? For him, the enjoyment, everything is going on. But the father knows what I am showing to my child is what I want to show you, right? The child cannot see something which the father can see, but the child will be enamored by the whole thing. Same is the case. The same consciousness now attached to the ego is giving what the ego wants. Only when we know that we are the consciousness, the ego can be seen, we can enjoy the ego's play, the world at play, but not tied down by the intricacies of the ego and the limitations of the world. That will not happen to us because we know to be aloof from that. Right?
No, but for most of the people who are not aware of the ultimate self-existence. No, but then the question is that the fundamental principle itself has no particular limitations.
No.
And yet it created a kind of limitation and living in that.
Limitation is apparent.
Yeah, but point is that it is already creating for itself this vyavahara. Meaning is it a mistake? In physics, for example,
right.
Okay, in physics, if I don't design the machine properly, it goes into this point.
Right.
They know separate entity which is going to control that. In the sense that it has got a physical principle which is limiting it. By very design only it is limited.
Right.
Okay, now, so one reading could be that nature created something, but then because that creation didn't go as planned or whatever, so it started getting limited. And now it is stuck in the limitation. Okay, for some time, till the death or whatever it is. So that is one. Where, on its own nothing is going to happen, Okay, unless you recognize that you are a free person, meaning you are free entity.
When will it happen?
No, no. So that is the question here. The question here is that let's say that the whole path is already predetermined, let's say.
See,
Okay. In which case,
I understand. You cannot talk from both the sides simultaneously.
From your side.
no, but
The moment the ego and the world is being taken as real, then you are not going to be in your awareness. The sense that when you are you know your true nature as awareness, even the ego is your awareness, and when it is being played by the individuality and the vyavahara and the world and everything, the whole thing is not outside awareness.
correct.
It is part of the whole system. In the system, there is a play going on. But the moment you do not know that the play is inclusive of the whole thing, you are becoming limited in the play as the ego and the world. You don't know who you are.
No, but that itself could be design of the ultimate, is my point.
That's why it says nature's naisargi goyam loka vyavahara or ishasya desva, ishasya swabhava. All those things is that even right now what is happening is our consciousness is playing all this game what we are doing. The consciousness is not mine alone. The same consciousness is playing in you, playing in Rajaveda, every one of us. But we are thinking that we are the individuals.
No, that is what I am saying by design. Meaning that me considering myself as an individual is the design of the ultimate reality. Okay, to experience the reality in that way. Because the moment I know that I am not the body mind, experience will change. It change as in like it will not be like so deeply engrossed in the world with suffering and other things, right?
Right. Look at this way now. Imagine the dream experience of yours.
Mm-hmm.
In that there is a dream world, you are the dreamer, the creation, everything is happening. But while that is happening, we do not know we have created the dream.
Correct.
Right? Same way, this experience which is being now experienced by us, we do not know our awareness aspect of it which is
Which has created this. Yeah.
So what happens is that until we are able to make that shift to that, this will become a question mark all the time because we are not able to get out of that, like how we are not able to get out of the dream. That is the same problem what is happening.
No, for that particular problem, now that people become aware that this is like a dream, I need to do something, that's a different issue.
There is two aspects to it, Vinod. One is intellectually knowing and accepting the whole thing. Third, your personal experiences, you are not looking it from the total point of view. So what happens is that, like the dreamer getting stuck, we are getting stuck in the waking. But in the waking, the intellectual understanding is a knowledge. Yet we are in the waking. So what happens is that the freedom what we are talking about is using the intellect or the mind, whatever word you want to use. That is now delinking us from the experiences as Vinod or Bindu to awareness, and that is happening in the waking, where Vinod and Bindu will remain, but my awareness and your awareness is not separate awarenesses. It becomes one awareness. From that awareness point of view, this is a play. What you are rightly said.
Yeah.
And we cannot.
No, it is a play. It is a play whether we are aware of it or not.
Right.
The only difference, if you are not aware, is that your play is much more dramatic.
Yeah, dramatic. All those problems of
But
life.
we cannot call it as a mistake.
It never said the mistake.
Huh.
Who says the mistake?
No, so the whole of life, the way it is happening also, maybe there is a purpose behind it.
Yeah, no purpose. See, purpose is again, purpose is
purpose
again,
as in like, it's a joy of life.
no, purpose is again a coin for the waker.
Correct.
From the awareness point of view, there is no purpose.
No,
It
it's
is
just the very
awareness.
fact that it is happening,
Do you
as
mean
opposed to not happening.
Do you mean to say there is a purpose for the space, for all things happening in the space?
See, somewhere it starts.
Answer me.
Correct. But
Does the space has a
now, if you
purpose?
put it that way,
Yeah.
that it's totally purposeless and so on, then there's no handle to decide or rather to capture it. Then we have to go with more like physics, meaning gravity, for example, is simply there. There's no purpose to it. Meaning maybe it's a design is a purpose. Is one thing we can say, but otherwise there's no purpose fundamentally.
But there is a purpose for gravity.
No,
That's
that
why-
purpose is there because of so many other things, right? It serves certain purpose. So here also the purpose may not, it's like ananda or joy is the fundamental purpose. Is typically what I have heard. You cannot say it's purposeless, right?
No.
Though it doesn't belong to waking state, I agree with that.
Yeah. No, see, the problem is that when the moment we use the word purpose, we are again limiting it.
So what do you do there?
Yeah.
See, if there's no purpose,
Yeah.
then I can only say it is multiple views. There are multiple views, meaning
Again,
you can see from as a pot, you can see as a mud, like
again,
that.
views,
Huh.
like purpose, is a terminology of the waker.
Okay, then how do you come to terms with it? Or you don't do anything?
Come to terms means you cannot never ever negate your being.
Correct?
So, your being has no purpose.
See, the question is
Huh.
that you could have been only being, not doing anything else. No other aspect in the
No,
existence.
no. Your being and what you doing are not connected. In your being, you are doing things.
Yeah, but it can be permanent sleep state. There need not be anything.
That is because you are seeing that the doing is your requirement.
No, not my requirement.
No.
It is whatever the ultimate reality is, it's just enjoying
The
it.
things happening in the world is a requirement for the awareness to happen? No.
No, requirement not in the sense of waking state requirement.
Yeah.
It's a mode of existence, or it's like the joy of reality. In a
How will
different
you explain this?
See, it is like,
how will you explain this in your dream world?
No, within the dream, the very fact that the dream is happening seems to serve a certain
Whose
purpose.
purpose was the dream?
There is certain purpose for that. Otherwise, we would not know that the reality
Whose
would work
purpose?
in this way.
Whose purpose?
No, I can say my own purpose.
Who is that you in the dream who created the purpose?
No, in the dream there is no purpose. In the dream, the purpose belongs to the dream. Right?
Same way in the waking.
You know, the fact that the dream itself is happening
Yeah.
is a purpose for the awareness to see itself in so many different ways, right? To recognize that, to give a reminder, for example, to the waking state person, that look, this waking state is also a dream. And for that I require to know what a dream is. So there are dreams.
See, I can only think that, the moment the word purpose is being brought for dream or waking, you are either stuck in waking or dream to get a validation for these happenings.
Not necessarily. See,
Otherwise,
how do you see? You can say as awareness it doesn't require any handling. Okay, because awareness is actually free of any logic, any this thing, because it doesn't have to do anything. It simply exists, right? So in that sense, you can say it doesn't have to say anything. Why I created this, etc., etc. That kind of conversation will not exist within pure awareness. And yet, the changes are there. Now, see, that's where the problem lies, right?
But you know the answer now.
No, I know this, that's why I know that also.
Now you have identified both the sides. Now you want to take one side and try to
No, I'm
get
not
that.
taking any side, but I am pointing out the incompleteness of the whole reality.
From which point of view?
No, which seems to change from different points of view.
No,
But
you said
more
both the points.
Correct. But more consistent point seems to be that awareness. See, as I normally say, awareness is basically it's like not just inert; it's capable. Inert meaning like nirguna, whatever.
There is no capability of it. That is the nature of it. You say that.
No, nature and capability I am taking as similar in a way.
Okay, then fine.
Yeah. In the
So-
sense that it can be
But
this also, it
see,
can
the
be that
moment you
also.
bring capability, it
Ah.
has got a what you call measure.
No, because when it creates, then the capability is part of the creation. But creation as a capability, I don't know what to call it as. See, like the movie director creates a movie. Now, creation of a movie is one activity. Within the movie, there are actors and who are doing different things. That's a different layer of reality. So one way I try to kind of put this is different layers of reality.
Right.
Okay.
Now I'll ask you a question. I am doing a selfie and making a movie.
Uh-huh.
I am also in that movie.
Okay.
So my purpose is to be me in the movie,
Okay.
and I am also looking. I am making the one who is thinking. So my choice is where I should focus the camera, where should I think, but I will never allow myself to be outside the camera because it's my selfie based.
No, but the real observer within you will be never in the picture.
No, because always while shooting,
Huh.
the observer was very
No,
much.
that body is
No,
not.
very much. No, I'm talking about that from the point of view. From that point of view, I have kept always myself as part of the observer who is wanting the observation to inclusive myself. That way, when you are doing it, will you call it a play?
No, I mean for yourself it is a play because whatever you are creating.
For yourself, it's a play. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You are creating a certain play. You know you created it.
Right.
I see the key point here is there is a difference between the movie reality and the so-called real reality. But real reality itself is like a dream or like a kind of thing for another one. Now this is ad infinitum, meaning any level it can kind of go. Now we are awareness is there, and then this series of realities can be there anywhere. So normally
My statement is that realities are not separate from this awareness.
It's Parinamavada.
No, accepted. But then I solved this problem by saying that movie always starts in the middle. Okay, meaning you suddenly start a projection, and in the projection you start with all the logic and like try to go into past, future, and all that and all that. But that first part, which is projection, you still,
That is not middle for the projector, the one who is projecting.
No, but it's still not cause effect.
No, because he is present even before it.
Correct.
Even when it is stopped, he is there.
Correct.
So for him, it is a
No.
infinite
No, so
possibility.
that's where, because the moment even that also induces a linear time,
Yeah.
which cannot exist in reality.
Reality,
So
yes.
then we switch to point of view, meaning this also is there, that also is there. Point of view meaning what? The whole scene is there. You can see from the bottom, let's say some lake is there and you are looking at the mountain. Or you go to the top of the mountain and look at the lake. How many views are there? Infinite views. How many realities are there? Only one. Okay. In which case, the awareness, this thing, all these are like single reality. And you have freedom to view from anywhere you want.
But
Simultaneously.
But in the today morning's example, which I was discussing with Srini, about the 365 degrees, you can multiply, you have subdivided in everything.
Correct.
And when you are turned around and you are looking, your observation is only to one place.
Correct.
The infinite is the remaining closure.
Yeah.
So what happens is that who chooses what? You are choosing the one.
So the one who is choosing.
Yes.
No, but the one who is choosing is not temporarily created, no? Then that's again, see, prior to observer and observed, okay, what to understand as absolute reality is the most difficult part.
Anirvachaniya.
No, Anirvachaniya is in the Maya part, not in this part.
That's how observer is becoming.
Anyway, I think it took a lot of this time. So
Beautiful discussion.
next questions you can.
No, but the other entity has to continue with these questions.
Similarly, this is a question we picked it up. What is a mind that is void of ego, void of name and form? What is it? What is it called? How do we characterize it? Or is it very card? You can't even characterize it. What is it?
See, mind without an ego is a mind which is called sattvic mind. In the sense that there is every function of the mind which is going on. But the identification of the mind is not with the what you call individuality. But the mind is a universal mind at that time, in the sense that the selfishness and the limitation of the self or the identification with the individual, when it is not there, he becomes Sarva Bhuta Hidayata. He becomes one with the whole nature, universal nature. And such a person is self-content because he is no selfish anymore. He has nothing to gain, nothing to lose. He is not looking for his individualistic point of view. But he will continue to exist in this world, doing his normal duties like everybody. But there is no, what you call, pull to himself. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. He is neither worried about things happening, not happening. He is like a dry leaf in a wind.
It can go in
In either direction. He is not affected.
So that name and form, is not there, right? Name and form is not there. What now we took ego aspect now. Let's take the name and form aspect.
Okay.
How does it work?
See, because mind is mind only when it has something as name and form in it to operate with.
To work with.
To work with. If the thoughts, or what we call it as vrittis, has to be dependent upon the name and form.
Even to perform duties in the world.
Everything, every word that name and form will be the dependency for the mind to function. But when the knowledge in the mind, please understand the word, the knowledge in the mind, when identifies that the dependency of the name and form is for only for transaction purpose, not for one's own existence. My existence or my awareness or my consciousness or my being has no dependency on the name and form. Because I was existing even when the names and forms were changing, to observe the changes. So I didn't change along with the names and forms. I was a weak sakshi to that. And when the whole waking and dream stopped to function as the egoistic individual who was dreamer or awaker, my own being was never compromised or diminished. There also, I remained, but my mind also never came there, because there was no dependency on the name and form. Therefore, my experience of deep sleep, the so-called state, I'm not talking from the waker's point of view of accounting the time.
None of it.
Yeah. My own experience as an entity in the deep sleep, where my mind also was not depending upon the name and form, but my mind remained in the as knower of nothingness. That knower of nothingness is the nature of the mind without the dependency on the name and form. So therefore, yado vacho nayatante aprapya manasa saha, when that statement is being made in the Upanishad, is that the manas, along with the name and form, what? Which is basically the name and form. When that is not aprapya, means that is the time when the mind in the amani bhava, of the nature of dependency on the mind and the words, word and nama rupa, but the function of the mind as consciousness or awareness very much remained, because of which when we wake up we say, I knew nothing.
Same thing continues.
Same thing continues. That aware mind is present, in which the name and form comes, we call it as waking or dream.
Okay. This Vacharam Vikara Nama Deva. That Vikara happens because of the the transactional need, the vitara happens, but vitara is also seen.
Right.
There's no connection made to the ego because the ego is less.
Yes.
So this is the working of, but why? Why in the case where the individual continue to function through the individual? Why not as a universal mind operating as Ishvara? Why not as Ishvara? Why the individual time?
See, the question you bring in Ishvara and the individual, all those things,
Functionally. Since we talked
functionality,
yeah.
is the reason why the divisions are being experienced. That for that, the word and the forms
It is
are
not like some
mandated.
kind of game, no? Here.
Even the word Ishvara is a dependent word on the mind.
I'm with you. Since we talked about ego, name and form,
Yes.
in a functional aspect,
Right.
right? How the tying of the individual, the jiva aspect is diminished, diluted or resolved. But the universal mind exists, which we call it as Ishvara. Yes, sir. We call it as Ishvara. Is that fair enough?
I won't call it as an Ishvara.
What is the universal mind?
Huh?
What is the universal mind?
Universal mind is your own, you as a consciousness.
So then where is Ishvara in the universal mind?
You are the Ishvara that.
Then why the continued, operation, the operation is limited to that body mind as a lens.
That is, that same Isha or the Ishvara Svabhava. To limit it, to see as an individual in the vehicle, to see as separate some individual as in the tree.
Why not I see as,
Why
why not I see as Advaita? Why not I see as Guru?
You are the one who is seeing as Advaita.
No, through them.
And no, when you identify through the lens of Venkat, you cannot see the lens as Jataveda. But if you are the Isha, it is the same Isha which is Venkat, which is the same Isha which is Jataveda, which is the same as.
That is understood. That
Yeah.
understood from a knowing perspective is understood.
Yes.
But being is using the lens. Correct? Knowing is understood. Being using the lens. Is that question clear?
No. The coining of the question itself is
Because
from
the lens
from
lens continues to be Venkat.
from the point of your other side, not from the being side.
Understood. I'm just trying to give this one final straw left, which is lens of body, mind, intellect of Venkat. Continue to be tied for the experiential purpose.
That is for the Venkat purpose, not for the being purpose. Being doesn't have a purpose, which I was explaining to Vinod. It is the Venkat's purpose to experience Venkat.
Understood, Vijay. Why it is not switching?
Well, because you are enjoying Venkat.
So if it is Ishvara's capability as understood.
Ishvara's capability is all these things.
All this is, but that means Ishvara doesn't have a capability to switch the lenses.
Ishvara is not interested in switching the lenses.
So then it's clear. Then it's clear. If Ishvara doesn't have a capability to switch lenses.
It is not the Ishvara doesn't have a capability.
Ah.
Ishvara has no purpose for that purpose.
Okay.
It is Venkat who is interested in the lens of Venkat.
That is what driving the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Now clear. Thank you, brother.
Bindaji, universal mind is Vijnanamaya?
No, he is separated out of the awareness. If he is identifying himself with awareness, the Venkatji is not both separated.
Yes. He wants to continue as Venkatji.
See, now Revati wants to be Revati. What can awareness do?
No.
Yeah? What can awareness do? Awareness is still giving the requirement for Revati. Everything is relevant. But Revati doesn't want to identify with awareness but remain as Revati. What can awareness do?
The waking is same.
Yeah?
The waking is same.
Yeah, that is when we identify with the individuality, we are choosing to be the individual. But even though when we are the awareness only all the time, when we choose and operate as individuality, it is our choice to become this. But when we choose that, we forget that we are awareness. And how it is, why are you forgetting?
I'm enjoying this.
No, because we are depending upon the mind. And in the mind, both memory and forgetfulness are the nature of the mind. Therefore, we forget who we are. But the moment
Awareness doesn't forget, mind forgets.
mind forgets.
Yes.
And the mind, when it is being trained, educated, the mind knows that it is no more a mind, but it is awareness. The same mind
But
is
same
becoming
mind.
aware.
Same mind.
Yes.
It
Yet
seems the mind is more powerful than
manasana
awareness.
manude yenahur mato matam. Mano matam. That is the reason why it is.
No, but then it seems that mind is more powerful than awareness. Right?
Mind and awareness are not different. Nothing is outside awareness, So mind is also part of the awareness only. And our dependency on the mind makes us limited to the individuality.
Correct.
Yes.
The way to put it is that it is awareness which has temporarily decided that it is calling itself as mind, awareness.
And then when it is identifies with awareness, it doesn't call itself as.
Correct.
And powerful is only terminology of
Then it's
mind.
the role play. Then it's the role play.
Is that Atmanaha mana? You said it like earlier.
If it is a role play, then
When
can appearance.
there is no mind of waking,
Yes.
then but my mind is there for Atman. Is that Atmanaha?
No. See, Taittiriya's stages are for the Panchakosha Viveka that is mentioned everything. But we don't mix up that with the discussion which we are doing. There that Atmana Akasa Sambhuda Akasa Vayu Vayu Apaha, then all those things comes. And then it is say Prana Annamaya Kosha, Manomaya Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. That is only for us to, train the mind to have the Drishya Viveka of the whatever is possible we can. Even our Vijnanamaya Kosha as a Vijnana, we are aware of our Vijnana. But who is aware of it? That is where the Panchakosha Viveka will help. But we are discussing it from a different angle, that mind itself is the awareness. But when the mind has got the capability to remember, forget, and question, logic, everything is in the mind. That is Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta. All the four aspects of the same in the Antakarana. And that Antakarana, when trained to become a Shuddha Antakarana, Chitta Shuddhi when it comes, that challenges of the mind to forget this thing, all those things are gone. And dependency on the Vak and the Rupa, Nama Rupa, also will be dropped by the mind. And the same mind now realizes that I am awareness. It is our mind which is saying I am the body. Are you aware of your body and this thing when you are in deep sleep? No. Why? Because you are not depending upon your mind. Right?
Is there a gap between that Amani Bhava and being associated with the body mind?
Yeah.
Is there a stage where it's not even associated with Brahman, but it's not associated with...
No, the Amani Bhava is there all the time. See, the sunlight is always there. But we say day and night. Why? From our experiential point of view. So we call it as day and night. And we have that daytime we will active, night we sleep. All those things are superimposed by us because of the absence of light and presence of light. But from sun's point of view, it has never asked us to be asleep or awake. Right? It is always there.
And then Amani Bhava will be equivalent to Brahman.
Are you aware outside your Surupa? Even when you are Amani Bhava, you are your Surupa. In the same mind, when you now take up in the experiences of the world, Amani Bhava is the Surupa of that mind also. But we forget what is the Surupa of our mind or our true Surupa. And we identify with that time the physicality,
the limitation of the physical body, the mind, all those things. Now it's thinking that I am Bindu, right?
So who's the Kaiser? Who's the
Eh? The ego.
Ahankara.
The ego in the mind, the mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, the four are there. The ahankara is the one which is holding on to all those things.
So when the realization happens, what happens to the Ahankara?
Ahankara was never there, first of all.
Okay.
But the moment we gave the freedom for the mind took up the ahankara. That is what happens when we wake up from the deep sleep. The first thing which comes is the individuality feeling. I am. Then I was asleep. Was the first thought which will come. Oh, now I am awake. So the I amness which comes in the mind at that time is due to the mind becoming active for the experiences part. And that mind, when it wakes up without the I am this thing, that he is no more identified with the physicality and the world of it. He knows the reality of them. But as long as the body is functional, to others it will appear that he is functional as a jnani or a brahmana, unmattava, all of those terms which we are saying that. From his point of view, he is no more there. Pashwadi avishesha is what the Brahmasutra Vajra Sankaracharya. It will appear as if he is an animal functioning. He will be prompted by good things. He will be running away from bad things. All those things will look like he is like an animal, but he has no ego there to say that I want that or I don't want that.
To get the clarity, what is ahankara? How we can describe it?
Ahankara is ignorance.
What and all it is constitutes?
Ignorance. Ahankara is the
Ignorance.
Is the what you call output of ignorance.
Ignorance. Okay.
When you have the avidya or the ignorance of who you are, your individuality or the ahankara comes up as I am the one. The moment you know who you are, there is no place for the ahankara to be there. When you know I am the Atma, Brahma, and then where will the ahankara
I exist in every aspect of the nature as Atman. Yes.
See, the whole thing is prajnana ghana.
Prajnana ghana.
We have to understand from that
Chit
point of
ghana.
view. Chit ghana or prajnana ghana. All the thing is that we have to now identify that what is the nature of Atma.
Okay.
It is not like Pratyabhijna or Bindo or anybody for that matter.
Yes.
The moment you know you are Atma, you are Prajnana. That awareness without which nothing will be there. Neha nanasti kinchana.
Okay. Yes.
That is what you are. That, in that case, where you are looking at the Nama Rupa as Nama Rupa because you are still trying to operate from the mind point of view, not from the awareness point of view.
Actually, when we talking about this Prajnana Ghana, always why we fail to achieve that state as this limited body and mind, why we, even though getting all the jnana, all these meditations, everything which is for Chitta Shuddhi, we are doing all those things, still we are not getting that state, why it is happening? I mean, why
Because
a
if you
seeker
have- even
cannot
if you-
flip into that state so easily?
Even if you have an iota of secondness, other than that, you cannot be.
You will have tea or coffee.
Idaram antaram gurude
Tea or
atasya
coffee?
vayam bhavati. That statement is so that
Tea, no?
even if you
We'll have
have
tea.
ajnana, samshaya, viparya,
Okay.
in any one of the form, if mind is still holding on to it, you cannot flip. And most of the time it will be samshaya or followed by viparya. If samshaya and viparya is there, ajnana is gone now because you know you are Atman. You have learned from Upanishad, you have learned from teacher, you have read books, everything. You know Atma, but you don't know what is that Atma. That is still a
the
mystery.
knowledge. It is in smarana. It is in our ahankara. It is stored as jnana, but it is not prakasha as jnana prakasha. It is not
But even your
enlightened.
even if your ahankara and your knowledge and everything is being known by what?
That is the one. That's what I am trying to recognize myself. What?
That is what you are. Tad brahmasi. Then why are you holding on to your mind and asking that flipping is required? Flipping is not required. You are that this moment, this very moment.
But see, that experience now continues.
You are expecting something to happen. This moment you have that experience or not?
Yet it is there already.
Yeah, then you are that. How can you expect something which is not there now?
But that feeling is not continuous.
But
right?
that is because you are expecting.
That Dharawat,
No,
it should be.
that is because you have got the expectation
Yes, sir. That may be
that
right.
something has to happen for me to shine like Atma.
Oh, okay.
No. This very moment, what you are, you will not be what you are if you are not Atma.
As you said, yes, I do have the expectation, the same expectation I am talking about, that the continuity of the experience.
Is it not Taila Dharavat right now? Can you break your awareness any moment of time?
Right now.
Yes, it is there.
It is all the time continuous.
Yes.
That is Taila Dharavat. But these
why
words,
I feel like the
that is
absence
why
of it.
depending on the words, don't depend upon Taila Dharavat, something will run through my intellect and mind and everything experience. No.
No, not
This-
that. Actually,
I am diverting.
the experience.
I am diverting to consciousness to myself.
That is the thing, no? That the experience, maybe as you said, now I can recognize where I am making the mistake. That experience, I am expecting it how to be the way I wanted it.
Yeah. That
It is
the way
not that.
the way I
It is
want
already there. I am not able to recognizing it because of my expectations.
expectation.
Not only
Because
that.
someone said that yes, it is have to be like this. So that thought, it is in my mind. So it is processing continuously the same thought and it is projecting it. So I am not able to see that yes, it is already there. I am not recognizing it and I am thinking that this has to be like this. It is continuous. I am not able to recognizing it.
That is called
Yes.
that is what is called viparya. Means misconception about your own nature.
यदेविह तदमुत्र तदङ्गिह मृत्युं गच्छति.
We need to take a